Hi, y'all. Good morning, our Art-Alchemy family. Sorry about, uh, I think it was Friday. Today is Sunday. So, yeah. So, happy Father's Day to all of you who are fathers. I owe you this video. I know. My stepfather came back on Friday and it just threw the whole curve. And yesterday, I kind of took the day off from art and all that. I don't know. I was feeling a little bit tired. So yeah, so I said I make the video today, and yeah, and I'm in a better spot. So yeah, the video today is about how art helped me, and how about came about studying art history. So I had already been thinking for a couple years now. Oh, like if I do something, if I go back to school, it'll be short. It'll be like a certificate. It'll be something fast. So I always kept that in mind, and I knew that I would have to pay for it because I am already degreed and far from that. So the opportunity came last spring. I was on unemployment because I hit unemployment right before that pandemic, and then that pandemic hit. So it kind of took me off that. I took a couple of jobs during that pandemic, where um right at the yeah right at the height of the pandemic, like the from my local community, and I did that, and then that ended last spring, and then that's when I came across. I was researching something about the VA because I'm a veteran, and that's when I came across the VRAP, the Veteran Rapid Retention Program. That it's like they'll train or something about re that they would retrain you, actually, not retention, retrain you program. So I applied for it. It was a simple questionnaire. So I applied it, and I within like a day I got approved. That I was approved for 12 months of training, and they had this list. So I looked up the list, and I looked at the majors, and I said I was looking through certificates. None of them were certificates where I was where I well the anything art related that I liked. So I finally saw art history, and I had to do in another associates, and I was like, no, I don't want to do another associates. And I was like, it probably wouldn't be so bad, right? Because I'm already degreed. Well, I did my degrees outside of California, and I had to do a couple of like general ed. I'm in my math class now because I had a D on it like over 15 years ago, but I'm not a math major or anything math major. So my old college said, yeah, it's fine. But in California, general ed courses apparently have to be a C or better because the associates that I'm getting, it's an associate transfer for that matter. So they have more of a special request because they're more picky basically because it's an associate transfer, not just an associate's. And I was like, okay. So I started in July of last year, and I was like, they gave me a list. So you have to take these for our history classes, and I was like, yay. And then they're like, you have to take a drawing class, and I was like, no. And then you guys, I skip anything related to art in high school and in college. I skipped it. I did nothing. The only art class I took in high school and in college was ceramics, and I actually took a semester of visual arts in high school as well, but that was like a filler class. And it was a really nice, but I wouldn't call that art because it was more like an art introduction. You know, yeah, you drew a little bit, but they actually taught you like exactly how to do that, exactly how to break down things. So I didn't, it was basically an introduction to art. It wasn't really an art like one class. So here I am trying to go back, and I took drawing one in the fall, and I was like, oh my God. I was so embarrassed because I was like, I don't know how to draw, right? But they actually teach you, and I made a lot of progress. I got a really good teacher, and he's the same teacher I got for painting that I just finished the class. And but it was like I was really scared. Like it was like, oh my god, I was like, I'm an art history major. Like we talk about history, we write research papers. What am I doing? And why do they have to have us in a drawing class? And then I thought I was done, and no, I found out and halfway through the fall that I had to take a studio class. So I took that. I actually took, which I kind of liked, like an introduction to architecture. So it helped me with drawing because my teacher was really, he didn't realize that he knows so much about drawing that he really didn't take 3 steps back and explain further. So a lot of things I didn't really understand, especially when it came to 1 point and 2 point. And I was like, oh my God, like I do not like my projects are not gonna look, but they're gonna look crazy, So I watch a lot of YouTube videos and they simplify things, and the architecture class did too. Except for my teacher, he was not simplifying anything. He was a different person in painting, actually. He must have watched, remember my one of my other videos that I did a rant on, I think in the very late fall last year. So yeah, so that, and that itself make me focus, and it took me to another place I never even knew. I never even knew that there's so much, the art, like the actual making of art, there's so many things you could do, and there's so many supplies. And that's where I had in drawing last year, that's where I had my real introduction to art. It's like you're not going to talk about it, you're not just going to look at it, you are going to do it. And I think that's the time I came across Palefo packs, and I became interested. I didn't want any regular gifts, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I didn't want any regular gifts last year, and I had told my stepdad we were kind of like not doing anything. And actually, Christmas last year, no, yeah, Christmas last year was one of our actual holidays that we celebrated. Um, we were not celebrating anything, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But yeah, so I told him that I didn't want any gifts. My birthday's in January, both of our birthdays in January. So I told him that to save it for my birthday, and he like gave me $100 on my in January, and that was it. I gave him like a small, like thing of cookies or something like that I had bought from Sam's, and I bought for all my friends. That I went. I ended up going to a couple gatherings at the end of last year, which it was like pretty okay. I was pretty okay with that, and and so yeah, that's how I came across Balefo packs. So I actually bought my own gifts last year, and I was like, I don't want any real gifts, I want like art gifts. So I came across Balefo packs, I looked at a lot of their videos, and then I went to their website, and I bought like 5 packs, like past boxes. And yeah, I got them on the same day. It was so nice. Just open them, and I was like, okay, when I go on my break, during winter, between the spring and the winter, because I was gonna take one class back in January, and I was like, well, I'm going to uh like open start using this art stuff and art supplies that I bought, and then I kept buying stuff from Amazon too, because this is a time that I also came across the Frugal Crafter on her YouTube channel, and she was showing like a bunch of lists of what to do, what to give artists and all this stuff, and people that are non-artists. And I already had prior to last year, I already had gotten into the year before, the year of the pandemic, I started getting into making junk journals. So with digitals and real and non-digitals. So then like art kind of, I guess it was a natural progression that I was like, oh, that I decided this year that I'm going to insert them in my junk journals. So here's how art and all that helped me. And I don't know, and that's how I got into watercolors, because of the Frugal Crafter, and I was already interested, but so yeah, I watch a lot of her videos, it kind of introduced me to kind of something that I wanted to try. So all these boxes that I bought from Polepo Packs were kind of like tryouts, you know? And I only bought things that I really, really was drawn to, that I would think that I would use them for something. And same thing with the Amazon. The Amazon during last year, that's where I got most of my watercolors. I think all of my watercolors. Yeah, because Colorful Packs didn't have any watercolors anymore at that time. So all of this, I started doing art during my Christmas break almost daily, and it just became like a natural ritual for me. And I noticed when January rolled around that I sort of turned the page, and that I automatically started healing myself through all these art supplies, like my focus on art. I'm a, I'm making number journals, all this stuff. Suddenly I became interested in something that I knew it that was there, but I didn't know like to the amount, to the extent. How did I became healed? Well, when I started using watercolors and I started putting the because I don't sketch, I sketch on the fly with my watercolors. As soon as I started putting paint and all that, I noticed it inside of me. It made me feel sort of happy, and seeing that those colors. And I guess it goes back to like color theory and color therapy or something like that. Art therapy there is now. But I don't completely agree with them. Like I like to use a lot of the reds, a lot of the maroons, kind of like quinacridone, kind of in that, not so much rosy. I like the rose gold, but not so much rosy. So like the different types of reds. But I'm not angry. Granted, last year I spent most of the year angry at my a lot of my family members, but I don't see red in that way. I see it more of a central, like vibrant, like dominant color, something like something related to love, any type of love actually. Stuff like that, not so much of like what the art therapy people say, that if you use red you're angry or something like that. I think they think I don't know, it's just my theory. They connected more like to crimes and all that when people commit and you see blood all over. Maybe that is why. I don't know. But I do use a lot of different red hues cuz I like to do botanicals and sunsets and other things. So, yeah. There it goes. So, how did this help me? How did I know? Actually, my family, my sister, like my stepdad, who was still crying at the time, and I wasn't, and I just felt like happy, and I felt like I was in a different place that I was previous to 2021 and prior to that. And I have friends and all that, but I like to hang around with myself. Like I'm okay being around the house, as I have a sort of like a routine. And I go out, but not as much as people do. I Compared to other people, I come out very little, and I'm okay with that because I like being in my house and chill back or whatever. But um and so yeah, that, and I didn't really notice that I was like I had healed. So why did I heal? So prior to all of this, my career and all that, in early 2021, my family, I was still working at this temporary, I had just gotten a new temporary job, and I was in an office setting, and I was working, and my birthday had passed on the 10th, and the 11th it was my stepfather, and like my birthday was one of the biggest last events that we had, like local family members come in, just a couple of them, not very many. And my brother had have already like a cough, and he was coming out of like a surgery at the middle of 2024, and I had to warn him, like, please, like, you're vulnerable, your body's vulnerable. keep it together. Well, he didn't check himself, and somehow he gave COVID to my mom. My mom was a 71-year-old and she had diabetes, and some other stuff that she didn't, I guess, properly take care. I mean, the outside she looked healthy, but technically she wasn't. So they both went down with, we didn't know they had COVID, but we kind of expected it. And my mom didn't want, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital. She was always like that. And my stepdad kind of just went on and listened to her instead of just taking action and not listening to her and calling the doctor, which he didn't. Because we're like, we're not doctors, we need to call her doctor to see, tell him, all this, her symptoms, because she's not getting better. And my brother, same thing, and they both were coughing. I ended up actually getting the flu like after them, and it was over just like a weekend. And that was like, I think the very last weekend, yeah, the very last weekend of January. My mom and my brother had already been in bed for like a couple of weeks. My brother like a week and a half, my mom like a week. And when I did that, I actually uh I got up like 3 days later and they didn't. And we noticed, gradually noticed that they were getting worse. So I skipped that February 2nd. I didn't go to work for safety reasons. I was like, no, I still have a little bit of like a mucus or something like that, and I don't want people to think I have COVID. And my stepdad was the only one going to work at this point. So I remember I like spray out because I always spray alcohol. My niece had got COVID, but I wasn't touching anything, any surfaces. I was like, actually, I had like an alcohol thing and another of Lysol, and I was spraying through my side, and I wouldn't touch anything. I would get a piece of paper, and I would I would sanitize everything before I use it, and after I use it, and I would go back to my room, or I would come visit my mom, and we're not very touchy, so I wasn't worried about that. So that was the last time I actually saw my mom. I went to work, and my stepdad took me to work because I didn't have a car then. When I came back, when actually nobody called me or anything, when I my stepdad picked me up, he told me that he had already sent my mom to the hospital, and yeah, that she was worse, and most likely she had COVID. So I was like, okay, this not good, right? Maybe my mom would be in the hospital for like 3 weeks to a month. Who knows? Well, we were already in February, and we were getting updates almost daily. Um, and no, my mom only she couldn't stay uh breathing properly. Her breathing was super low, and that's when the doctors ran all these tests, and they told us that she didn't take care properly of herself, like with her diabetes, and her anemia had gotten worse and all this stuff. So the COVID actually pushed all those issues even further. So she went on a what we called a coma, because they incubated her, they put tubes in her. So basically you're in a coma. And we thought she would actually wake up, but she didn't. She actually passed away on the 21st of February of last year, which is ironically 21 years prior to my real father passing as well. Um, so yeah, I took it really hard because I guess I took it hard and differently than my siblings because I'm the youngest, and at the time I was 38. I'm 39 now, but I haven't been married or don't have kids and haven't lived anybody outside from my family, um, and or like another like friend woman. Yeah, so I'm really traditional in that sense. Traditional, very traditional to untraditional. But yeah, so I took it differently because I no longer had biological parents, and I'm still kind of young, right, to not have parents, except for my stepdad. But we actually, this brought us closer together, the passing of my mom. And because I mean, it shocked both of our worlds. it was unexpected. Everything. Like one day she was here, she was fine, and then I guess my brother must have given her COVID. Who knows? Probably, yeah, because he used to bring her food, but he also didn't know he had COVID. So my brother did survive, but he was very ill for. I mean, we almost thought he was going to pass as well, but no, he did survive, thankfully. But other issues came about for him after that, but he's okay. So yeah, and that's how the passing of my mom and all the aftermath. Her funeral was April of last year, and that's kind of when I went. That's when I was. This is what got me upset. My older sister and all my other sisters, I don't know what they did to convince my stepfather, and they didn't. They just pick and choose for my mom's funeral, and we were not allowed to bring anybody that it was not family members, but my older sister did. She invited all these people, and when I kind of saw that, I was already upset for other things, like a 20-year outburst of things that I always wanted to say to them, but I kept my mouth shut because my mom, they would like indirectly punish her, which is weird that kids do that to their parents, but hey, to each his own. Um, so yeah, I outside of my mom's funeral, I was upset. I didn't stay the whole time because I had a job interview, which was funny. Everything kind of interfered that day. That was kind of unexpected too. And yeah, I was mad at my family members, and I just like told them everything had been on my mind for 20 years. And no, I don't regret it. And I for most of last year, I think the first half of last year, I was like, well, not the first half, a good 10 months of which is basically brought me to the end of the year. I was really upset, but art kind of like slowly started healing, because every time I used to think about the moment and what happened in the funeral, people would like ask me, like for other family members that I had to clarify things for. Like I noticed I would get upset and I would get upset, but the more I started focusing on art at the end of the year, like I said, it just kind of became a ritual where I started doing art, like just playing around with my watercolors because I didn't know what I was doing. So I kind of taught myself with watercolors, and I'm still kind of learning, but I'm a lot better now. And that's where my family members at this year, they saw the difference. Now granted, in between all this school, between going back to school, which I started online last year, and then I ended up in person for one class, and then two classes, and then back to one class, and this is the last one in the summer. I also planned at the last minute a trip to Hawaii, and that helped me a lot too. Hawaii has a very healing waters, and now I understand why people go. And I was really attracted. I was really surprised. That was like the biggest surprise besides my mom passing last year. Um, Hawaii, and I went back this year. It was really brief this year, but I actually um think about going back at the end of this year or something, or maybe in my birthday, but for sure um at the end of this year, and this time I'll be going to Maui or something. But yeah, that's how art really helped me. And um and I hope it helps you too. I wanted to show my story because it is therapeutic. I never expected art to be this therapeutic, and actually it allowed me, because I had made the decision that I was going to go see a therapist because of what happened with my family. And I was like, I cannot keep um having all these emotions, all this stuff inside of me bottled, and then suddenly I like a crazy person, I start spitting stuff out for because it'd been there for years and years and years. But now I think art is more physical, but it actually allowed me not to do that, because I actually feel uncomfortable talking about my feelings and all that. But with art, I don't have to do that. I just kind of do it, and it's therapeutic. I also found other techniques like meditative art, and I'm sure a lot of you know about this. And it really is like, I'm an abstract artist, and yeah, it's really helpful. I did a couple of those things too, and I hope to explore that more. And but yeah, so I just wanted on this Sunday to just briefly tell you, and I hope it helps you, and I hope you try it or tell somebody, because it I'm telling you, it really does help. And I wish a lot of the art community, except for the art therapy people, would actually encourage people and tell them how helpful art can be, and how diverse it really is. I found that out through my own findings of my own schooling, and just YouTube. Basically, YouTube is a blessing, though. That's why I'm here. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good Sunday and a good weekend, and hope good beginning of the week. I'll see you guys later.